Hola, 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 cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNate at BloodyElbow.com, joined once again by Dallas Winston and Zane Simon for the MMA Vivisection, wherein we take UFC Fight Night Japan, Hunt versus Nelson, lay it on the table, and carve it up alive and screaming before your very eyes. So you might want to put on some rubber sheets like it's a Gallagher watermelon smashing concert your grandparents took you to when you were a kid, and prepare yourself. Dallas, how pumped are you for this card?
Jesus.
Back to Japan. You're already flaking out on the play-by-play. That's how hyped you are about this card. You don't even want to do the play-by-play.
Yeah, I know I bitched out at the whole, stay up until midnight until 6 a.m.,
It's not even 6 a.m. It's like, I mean, for East Coast, it'll start at
3:30.
12. It starts at 12:30. It'll wrap up by about 4:30 a.m. your time.
No, that's not accurate. I don't
That is
believe.
accurate. Yes.
12:30 for the prelims, and doesn't the main card start at 3:30? So unless they're
Yeah,
gonna
so
pile the
it'll,
main
it'll
Oh,
card
yeah,
wrap
yeah.
into,
up at 6 in the morning.
All right.
take
So
that,
there
take
you
that,
go. Time
FA.
zones, time. It's all mysterious to me. I really
But to
wasn't.
answer your original question, it's actually a pretty intriguing card. It's actually pretty good. There's a lot of there's a couple throwback entries on the card in the lineup, but there's some intriguing matchups that actually should be pretty good. I don't know if it's like worth old school pride nostalgia to stay up all night and bender it, but it's not bad.
I think it'll be fun. Zane, your thoughts on the card as a whole?
I honestly think that outside of one bout on the card, it's probably a close to the best matched card the UFC has put on all year.
Wow,
And
bold
what's the one?
predictions.
What's the one?
The one is Lim versus Sato.
Oh,
That
beat down.
that that fight is a killing.
It's a beat down.
Um, otherwise, I mean, you look at it. You're putting on this card in Japan. Every single bout except for the main event, which has sort of adopted son Mark Hunt in it, has a Japanese fighter in it who is in against an opponent that even if they're not going to win, they should be well matched to put on a fun fight. Like, to me, that's just great matchmaking top to bottom. I mean, even if this isn't full of names that should be huge in the States, it'll be a really fun card. It should be, at least.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this will sell some Fight Pass subscriptions for sure. Might even be the biggest Fight Pass seller of the year. Dave Meltzer was saying in the Wrestling Observer last night. But let's get down to it. We got a lot of fights to cover and not much time to do it because we are determined, despite Dallas's worst intentions, we're determined to get this done in an hour. Get you in, get you out, give you your predictions, your previews, your odds, and move along. But first, give us a like on YouTube because there are bad people who give us dislikes and they're not nice. So give us a like, subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at KidNate, at Dallas Winston is at Uncle Justice, Zane Simon is at the Zane Simon. But first up, preliminary card UFC Fight Pass featherweight, Maximo Blanco, Venezuelan but honorary Japanese because he started his whole career. He was the Sengoku Golden Boy, still a bit of a prodigal son. Taking on Dan Hooker. Who wants this one first?
I'll go
Nobody.
after it.
Yep. Zane, get at it.
All right, so this is definitely. I mean, this is a fight on paper that Maximo Blanco should win anytime, every time. He's one of the best athletes, pure athletes at featherweight. Guy just has a wealth of natural tools that he at his disposal. He's fast. He's got a great wrestling base. He's strong. He even strikes reasonably well and technically when he wants to. The problem is that he's also one of the most. I mean, he's kind of like Johnny Bedford, and he's one of those guys that just is always going to check out and always going to screw himself over every single fight. And it's just a question of how badly is he going to do it, and is it going to cost him the fight. Fortunately for him, I think he's kind of. This is going to be probably a bit like the Andy Ogle bout, where despite his best attempts to give it away, he's just not going to be able to. And, it'll be interesting to see if Hooker can make something out of it. He's kind of a decent, scrappy kickboxer with a decent grappling game, but he doesn't have any of the wrestling transition that would really trouble Blanco, and he's not nearly a hard enough hitter, I think. So I think this would be Blanco's fight to walk through and hopefully make it exciting just for the sheer stupidity with which he fights.
And Dallas, your thoughts on the bout?
I don't disagree with any of that. Except I don't know if I'd put Maxi in the Bedford zone just yet, just because that's kind of it's out in its own area. But it's totally true that on paper, or if you look at Maxi's skills and the breadth of his career, this should be a good matchup for him. But like Zane said, you never see the peak Maxi Blanco at his peak all the way through a fight. There'll be some weird lulls and I don't know, some shit in there. I actually really like Daniel Hooker. He's like a tough bastard. I'd stamp that honorary label on him.
That's a
He's
registered trademark of Dallas Winston, by the way.
Yeah, I got to bring it back. At first, I stopped saying it because everyone, it became a thing. But he's like one of those kind of like Condit and Brown, where he's real skinny, but just like really mean, big scrapper. The big question, I think, is first how Maxi's going to perform, and I do think because Hooker's kind of long and lanky that he'll have a range advantage. Except he's not. He's a good striker, and he can do damage, but not usually with like one shot. So he's more of like a volume approach. So to me, the questions are what Maxi's going to show up and for how long, and then how he's going to get inside. I do think that he would be able to out wrestle and not necessarily just lay on top of him, but he's an excellent scrambler too. So it should favor Maxi, but Hooker's the kind of cat that if you give him like an inch of daylight, he'll make something happen out of it. And I really like Hooker. I'm kind of interested to see how he does here, but tough matchup for him. So it's weird to say the safe matchup is Maxi, but it's kind of the more logical considering everything we've said.
And the odds makers agree, despite Hooker having a sizable height advantage, he's 6 foot to Blanco's 5'8", and Blanco has struggled to remember the rule set and the unified rules. He likes to kick them while they're down. He also likes to shoot for those groin shots, so some referees take a less favorable view of that than others.
He likes
Blanco,
to shoot for him?
He likes to land them. He'll crush those nuts. Anyway, Maximo, the Nutcracker Blanco, he is favored anywhere from -157 all the way up to -180. Actually, -153 is the closest. And Hooker is the underdog, +135 up to +150. And that brings us to lightweights, Kazuki Tokudome and Johnny Case. Dallas, you take this one first.
It's actually kind of a little bit, as far as the matchup parameters, similar to the last one. Case is he's pretty solid. He's an alliance guy, but he's real tall and lanky. And I do believe, I think this is the one he said he's been wrestling since age 4 on UFC.com and in all his interviews, but I don't necessarily know, where he went, what his credentials are or whatever. But, with Tokudome, a judo guy, so it's kind of the same thing as the Maxi Hooker matchup in that, Case probably doesn't want to get in close and tangle with Tokudome, but I don't know if his advantage is going to be to kind of stay out at range and avoid takedowns, but I don't know if he has kind of like the mentality / skill set / power to really like make that a big advantage for him. I think he could, but Tokudome is the kind that eventually is going to kind of just put his head down and clinch up at any cost. And if he's going to march forward like that, you got to have something to throw down the pipe to dissuade him from doing so. So not feeling entirely confident about it, or competent for that matter. But I'd say Tokudome is probably a little bit matchup-wise the safer bet here.
And Zane, your thoughts?
Well, partially I'm going to admit that I have not watched much in the way of footage on Case, so
You never admit weakness, kid. Never admit weakness. Come on, you're all-knowing, all-seeing.
I try to watch footage on every single fighter, but he slipped through the cracks for me. So I can only take what I know sort of outside, which is that the read on him that other people seem to be saying is that he's a decent, if not necessarily all that great range kickboxer with a well-rounded but not necessarily polished skill set. And he certainly hasn't shown a lot of knockout power in his record. He's got some submissions to punches and all that, but not the kind of thing where he's just getting a bunch of first-round KOs. And of course, Tokudome, we know, he's like that classic Bushido spirit Japanese vet that's just going to go out there, put his head down, and sling leather until something happens. I mean, his fight with Norman Park and Yul Chul Nam were both just him standing in front of the guy trading shots round after round after round. And I mean, it's so. I think against better opposition, I would pick him to lose. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know where Case is. Everything I know about Case suggests he's just going to play right into that game and probably may not have the tools to win it. But it's a toss-up fight for me. It's one of those things where I can't trust Tokudome to win a fight in the UFC right now. And until I can trust him to win a fight in the UFC, anybody is a good odds to beat him.
I'd say even if you watched a lot of tape on Case, just because this is kind of like his first step up onto a big stage against better competition, there's still going to be a giant question mark on his striking, how he handles the range.
Oh, yeah.
To me, it's his wrestling. That's what I'm interested to see, because if he's able to not be distracted by Tokudome's wild flurries and get lulled into a clinch battle, if he's got the wrestling to keep him off, then he'd have a really good chance of winning this match.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what I say. It's like Tokudome is a very, very beatable fighter, like excessively so. But he also has the kind of game that's going to give, being really hard to knock out, very, very hard-headed and willing to, and endlessly aggressive. Also means that you have a good chance to steal a win from almost anyone. So just on his side of things, it's very hard to predict how he's going to do when he's not fighting somebody who's like at the top end of the talent level.
Yeah, Tokudome is really durable and really control-oriented, so not a lot of finishing weapons. And Nate wants to wrap this up, so
nobody cares about this
personally, I
fight
suggest we move forward at this point.
It looks like it'll be. It sounds like it might be a fun little slobber knocker. It might also be 3 rounds of sloppy tedium. The odds makers like Tokudome. They've got him favored -162 to -170. Johnny Case, the newbie, is the underdog at +135 all the way up to +148, and that brings us to bantamweights Minori Tanaka versus Korean Kyung-ho Kang. How's the intra-Asian rivalry going to break down, Zane?
This looks like an excellent setup fight for Tanaka. Honestly, I think this is just the right step up for him. It should be really exciting. Kang's a guy who really excels in transition. He's great in scrambles. He's really athletically talented. And he's shown a good, pretty decent submission game, but not great. Like, I mean, he submitted Shinichi Shimizu in his last fight out, but he also was head and shoulders above Shimizu athletically all the way through that fight, and it still took him the better part of 3 rounds to actually get his offense into gear and put him away. So Kang is the kind of, to me, he's like the great athlete who doesn't quite have enough polish on any one of his skills to really dominate opposition. And Tanaka's something special. I mean, he's your blue chip prospect coming up through the ranks. So this should be a great, tough test for him. But I expect him to get a win out of it. Maybe a submission, but very likely a decision.
And Dallas, your take?
Hey, well, when you guys check, is there a major height difference on this?
I'll check.
And while you're looking at that, Tanaka is a totally legit prospect. Someone to be kind of excited about. I think really his speed will be a big difference because Kang is a pretty strong and athletic cat.
He's got a 4-inch height advantage. He's 5'9". Tanaka's 5'5".
Kang is 4 inches taller.
And that's not huge, but it's enough where that actually could play in. Kang, I think, is still kind of finding himself as a fighter. I kind of like his stand-up when he goes kind of just basics. He's got a pretty decent left cross, and I think if he fights smart and just does a lot of basic things, that he can cause Tanaka a lot of problems and maybe even win this. Am I wrong here? Didn't Tanaka, in his debut, and I don't even remember who it was, he ended up winning, I think, by knockout. But
it was Roland Delorme.
Was that his debut?
By decision.
Okay, no, I'm thinking of someone else on the card then. So, either way, I mean, Tanaka is going to be a big favorite here. To me, Kang, with his height and his reach, and he's pretty strong, and he's got a pretty decent judo background, he could cause some big problems here. So I think that this will be a lot tougher test for Tanaka than it seems. But he's got way more like offensive potency, and I think his quickness and his footwork and his movement are going to be key for him. I was going to say that will be the difference. To me, that will decide how he does here. If he gets into a kind of a head-on where he stays in front of Kang and either trades with him or lets himself get clinched up, could be a long night for him. I can see Kang getting a decision on him, but I'm going to go with Tanaka. It's kind of nice to have an exciting prospect out there.
And the odds makers like them from Tanaka too, not enormously, but they've got him favored minus 162, minus 158 all the way up to minus 185. Kang is the underdog, coming in at plus 135 all the way up to plus 160. And that brings us to Ace Lim, Hyun-Gu Lim versus Takanori Sato. And Zane, this is the fight you called a squash match. Tell us about it.
Well, Lim's gonna crush Sato. That's what you need to know. I mean, Lim is not nearly as technically polished or as fast as Eric Silva, but Eric Silva's like a reasonably, for stand-up wise, that's like a pretty reasonably solid translation of Lim as a fighter. Is somebody who is really powerful and really, maybe doesn't string together all the best combinations, but is head and shoulders athletically above a lot of his division at welterweight. I mean, the dude is just a powerful monster. He doesn't have the cleanest technique in the world, but everything he throws is incredibly hard-hitting. He throws great knees in the clinch, and he's just a great athlete. And Takanori Sato's a solid grinding wrestler and really not a great athlete at all. I mean, we saw what Eric Silva did to him. He basically, was the saddest thing in the whole world. And I'm not expecting him to do any better against Lim, really, at all.
And Dallas, are you getting your bloodlust on for this one?
Yeah, I mean, everybody should. And I kind of like...
So you hate Sato as much as Joe Silva seems to.
No, but I remember when he first got brought into the UFC, that was one of those I was like, okay, I mean, I don't hate it, but shit, that's kind of just a weird... I think this is one where he's a vet over there, so the crowd is going to love him. They will probably be behind him. With Ace Lim being a Korean guy, actually, so he's got a little Korean zombie in him. So it's not that he's technically unsound, but I like it that he's kind of a brawler. He'll, he's mean. He's a big bruiser, and he sometimes will, do himself a disservice by being a little too aggressive, but that's kind of his style. So he'll come forward. He's got a nasty straight left. Really, I think his clinch game, he tends, because of his size, which makes sense, to want to stay outside, but man, when this motherfucker gets in the clinch, his knees are nasty. I mean, he can just tenderize people in the clinch. And that's what Sato, I mean, that's usually the gateway to his success, is to get inside and clinch. He's not much of a, like a traditional wrestler that's going to change levels and shoot from inside. He'll look to move into range, and first of all, it's tough for anyone to do against Lim, and he's just as nasty in the phone booth as he is from outside, so pretty rough matchup for Sato here.
And the odds makers agree. They've got Lim heavily favored. Like Zane said, this is by far the biggest spread on the card. Lim is favored from minus 505 all the way up to minus 600. And Sato is the dog from plus 400, plus 350 all the way up to plus 451. And that brings us to the Heartbreak Kid, Katsunori Kikuno versus Sam Sicilia. Kikuno, I wasn't surprised when he got shellacked by Tony Ferguson, but I was saddened. Can he turn it around, Zane?
Well, I mean, if by turn around you mean win this fight, yes. If by turn around you mean improve drastically, no. He's 32. He's been fighting since 2005. Any problems that Kikuno was going to be shown with his style, he's been shown well before he got knocked out by Tony Ferguson. He's not going to suddenly be like, oh, I should move my head more. Like, the guy's been fighting for years. He knows what he doesn't do. Fortunately for him, Sam Sicilia is a pretty terrible range striker and has gotten pretty handily outstruck on the outside by anyone that he has ever fought there for any length of time. And he tends to get stuck there pretty easily. So somebody who's showing him a lot of new looks, like Kikuno will be, is probably a big problem for him. When Sicilia can bull his way inside and do his dirty boxing and sort of transition takedown game, he's much better, and he could certainly beat Kikuno there. I just don't think I trust Sicilia to go to that well often enough. I think he'll be happy to sit outside and try to slug it out with Kikuno just a few times too many and probably get knocked out. So I'm taking Kikuno here.
And Dallas?
Well, it's kind of interesting because Sicilia is somewhat known for a very dangerously low hand position himself. You know, he's not the kind of guy I would say
Kikuno
that.
keeps his hands up. He just doesn't move his head.
Well, yeah, but usually when you say keep your hands up, you don't mean a foot away from either side of your chin. I'm just throwing that out there. But I do agree with Zane that I doubt Kikuno is going to change because not only has he been doing that, that's kind of what he's known for. But Sicilia doesn't, you know, it's different. And it's not bad. I've come to kind of, I guess, appreciate it a little more. He throws really heavy from his pockets, which that's usually a good thing to mix in with more traditional strikes, but he throws hard. He's got pretty fast hands. And Sicilia is a guy that seems like I thought maybe he was just going to fade into mediocrity, but you know, I kind of appreciate his scrappiness. He's a gamer for sure. To me, the difference is going to be, I guess Kikuno is just really crafty. He's got a lot of unorthodox shit with the crescent kick, and he is like a big beast in the clinch. In the majority of his fights, he's been able to get on top of people and club them with his, you know, ground and pound. He's a little too patient. We see that a lot with a lot of the overseas fighters, particularly Japanese fighters. And actually, it's something that I'm not overly thrilled with, but they're used to, you know, being able to be patient. They have the luxury of patience, where over here, if there's like a 10-second lull, you're going to get stood the fuck up right away. So that's going to be another big adjustment. He was way too complacent against Tony Ferguson. I'm actually kind of interested. Sicilia is a decent wrestler, to see how they'll stack up as far as when they're in contact range. Sicilia, no question, is better with traditional singles and doubles, but it's tough to say. In the clinch, I'd say Kikuno's more proven. So this should be a good scrap. I'm going to go with Kikuno, hoping he can pull out, you know, some kind of unorthodox creativity and kind of revivify his stock a little bit. So I'll lean towards him, but wouldn't be surprised at all to see Sicilia give him a hell of a fight or come out with a win.
And the odds makers agree. They've got Kikuno favored from -140 all the way up to -156. Sicilia is the underdog, +120, +115 all the way up to +130. And that brings us to bantamweights. Alex, Bruce Leroy Caceres versus Masanori Kanehara, closing out the prelim card. What is Bruce Leroy doing on the prelims of a Fight Pass card in Japan after fighting Uriah Faber? It makes no promotional sense. Now let's talk about the fight.
Well, you must have obviously seen the French cut film version of, you know, with Bruce Leroy and Shonuff. It's, you know, Leroy. What's the name? It wasn't End of the Dragon. What's the name that I can't think of the name. Got the glow.
I can't remember. Bruce.
Anyways,
it's Bruce Leroy. Bruce Leroy. But I like to say
the Last Dragon. Yeah.
I like to say Leroy. I say it Leroy every time because that means
Leroy.
king in French.
Yeah. Bruce Leroy.
I'm not going to stand for that one. But this will be I like Caceres. He's a really good fighter. I think he's been consummately underrated ever since day one. If you remember, he's a bantamweight now, and he gave Michael Johnson a hell of a fight, and he lost. But I think he's got a ton of skills. He showed a lot of flair and style. I remember when he fought Cole Escovedo, he threw double alternating, roundhouse kicks, opposite leg, like bam, bam. And he's got some supreme talent. But Kanehara will be the first guy that's taller and longer than him. So that actually might be a factor because he gets a lot of advantages from his size and length. Kanehara's always kind of been a weird fighter, tough to get a beat on. You can watch a million of his fights and still walk away thinking, I'm not exactly sure what he's great at and what he's weak at. He has lost some fights to big punchers, admittedly, but by strikes, TKO or knockouts. And to me, that's the big thing with Caceres is he hasn't really shown a lot of knockout power. He's shown excellent striking, creative, technical striking. But I think at this point it's imperative for him to take that and make it into a functional MMA package. In other words, I would much rather see him, ding someone's head with his shin with a kick, or like really do some damage with some of these new offensive toys he's been playing with. I actually don't know how this is going to go. I think maybe Caceres could be favored. Kanehara is just crafty everywhere. He doesn't have a glaring weakness and really doesn't have a glaring strength. He's going to be composed, experienced, and he's not going to get shaken by anything. So I don't know what the odds are in this one. I'm leaning very slightly towards Caceres, but this could be anything. This could be dull as hell. This could be like a firecracker back and forth. So hesitant, slight edge towards Caceres for me.
And Zane, your pick?
I could definitely got to go with Caceres. He's a huge step up from the level of talent that Kanehara has been fighting lately in Japan. The big thing I think Kanehara, late game change for him is that he's really become a strong technical boxer with good power in his hands. Like he's not defensive. Defensively, he's wide open, but he's worked on being patient and moving well and having good footwork and throwing really good, strong combinations. It sort of takes him around to get his rhythm and range, but if he does, he's really a pretty excellent striker. Dangerous one.
Sorry, quick question, Zane. I agree with that, and don't you think that it was after he lost the Sengoku title to Sandro that he really seemed to polish up his striking?
Well, it's within his last, he's got a string of 4 knockouts he's coming in on the back of that are well after that, but that may have been, he lost by knockout to Yoshiro Maeda and Rasul Mirzaev after that Sandro fight. So that may have been when he started putting in the work, but it's sort of like 2012 is when he started seeing the real upside of it.
Am I wrong that those opponents were a big step down from even a lot of his...
Oh, no, not wrong at all. But that, I still say you see enough guys who fight bad fighters and go to 5-round decisions every time that, if you're knocking guys out in the first round, even if they're guys that are set up for you to beat, that it still shows that you're developing some confidence and quality in a skill that you've been working on.
Excellent point. And the odds makers, are you done? Do you have more?
I didn't get to pick. I
Well,
I got sidelined in the middle of that.
All right. Well, get to it. Focus, kid. Focus.
So yeah. Anyway, still outside of that, it takes him a long time to get into rhythm. Caceres is a very off-rhythm fighter. Somebody who gets people offset really easily. He's excellent in scrambles, much better than Kanehara. I don't know that he'll submit Kanehara, but he'll probably outwork him, especially as the fight goes on, if he can throw off Kanehara's timing.
And I love this fight. I like that they have it in Japan. I think Bruce Leroy is exactly the kid that Japanese fans might come to enjoy. He is heavily favored, minus 283 all the way up to minus 265 all the way up to minus 300. Kanehara's the underdog.
They are really pushing Caceres over in Japan, aren't they? Sorry to interrupt you, but
they are.
You would have moved on. That's kind of...
Yep. So I think it's his love for the traditional martial arts. Black fighters, African American fighters have been big successes in Japan, so it's kind of a cross-cultural love affair going there. And Kanehara's the underdog, plus 210 all the way up to plus 257. And that brings us to the opener of the of the main card. Flyweights, Kyoichi Horiguchi versus John De Los Reyes. And so Eugene was resistant to the Horiguchi hype. I tried to sell him on it, so make a case. Horiguchi, hottest thing since sliced bread. Dallas Winston, yes or no?
I wouldn't go that far, but this is the guy originally that I was thinking with Tanaka. So he was the one that had the debut against Pag and looked kind of average in the first round, but then shellacked him in the second and then came back and got a good decision over Montague, who's still, I think, a real underrated guy. I don't know as far as... I mean, he's legit. He's 13-1. He's now proven himself against... I'd say solid with Montague in their UFC level competition. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's legit, and now he's just got to keep proving that through his results. And I think De Los Reyes is a good fighter for him to do that against. He's from Guam, so Guam is a little bit like Hawaii in that they're all, you don't get a pussy coming out of Hawaii or Guam. Just tough. He's not going to give you anything. You'll have to work really hard to get to gain any ground against the guy. But Horiguchi, to me, he should be a little faster, and I think he's got a little more wide-ranging offensive skills. To me, De Los Reyes is really tough, but So I can see him hanging in there, but it's tough for me to think how he, barring just catching him with a big meat hook in the pocket. I just think that there's more avenues for Horiguchi to win this one. And really, I would say De Los Reyes is probably a step down from Montague. Was this a late replacement, Zane, or was this intended?
No, this was just how it was booked.
It's kind of weird, isn't it, to go from Montague to maybe it's more of a showcase
Oh,
fight?
No. He was actually booked against Chris Carriasso. Never mind.
Right. There you go. Okay,
So they pulled Chris Carriasso to fight Demetrius Johnson.
And that would have been a really good scrap. I would have loved to watch Carriasso and Horiguchi. So tough matchup for Reyes Horiguchi here.
I agree. I think it's they're doing. I also think they're doing the right thing, giving Horiguchi a step back from Montague. I mean, if you really want to build this guy as a good prospect, Reyes is exactly the right kind of fight to give him right now. I mean, De Los Reyes, we'd like to develop more prospects and get more international fighters into the works, but he's kind of a unpolished, fun action fighter that I'm not sure that he would ever have that high a ceiling beyond being a fun action fighter. As long as you're not going to cut him with a loss here, this is a good fun fight to put him in. Throws hard, he's really athletic. Otherwise, boxes well in combination, doesn't shy away from sitting in the pocket and throwing, even though he gets off balance and oversteps himself a bit. But it's the kind of fighter that Horiguchi should hopefully be able to show something fun against.
Yeah, and I think this is a case of the UFC. It's better to be lucky than good, because Carriasso, Carriasso's just not one of those guys who's got an overwhelming asset that he's going to destroy somebody. But he's a high-level guy. He's fighting for the title now, and to me, that was kind of rushing Horiguchi to throw him in there, especially in front of a Japanese crowd. Why would you want to do that? Let's build the kid. People don't know who he is. Let's give a guy somebody to feast on. Let him build his confidence. Let fans get a taste of him. And so I like it. I like a good Pride-style squash match. This one also. Probably the second biggest spread on the card. Horiguchi heavily favored anywhere from minus 551 all the way up to minus 610. And John De Los Reyes at plus 400, plus 397 all the way up to plus 474. And that brings us to welterweights Kichi Kunimoto versus Richard Walsh. Pretty good fight preview they had with Akiyama, we'll talk about later, and Kunimoto, both of them talking about some of the challenges of being a Korean-Japanese citizen. And so I thought that was a pretty interesting preview, and it seems like the UFC brings their A game with their peripheral marketing videos and stuff for the Japanese fights. Anyway, you can talk about this one, Dallas. Who's going to win?
Well, I'd say they have to bring their video A game because, I mean, compared to Pride, it's really shitty, don't you guys think? Is that just me? I mean, it's not like poor quality, but it's just, I mean, there's no creativity, same old shit. Just me?
It's a pale imitation of what Pride used to be, and it's the least they can do to at least put some effort into packaging their stuff in Japan.
So anyways, Kunimoto, kind of like I said about Takanori Sato, I was saying, like, out of all the choices, why would you bring this guy in? And then, of course, he rear naked chokes Serafian, which was really, I mean, that shocking to say the least. And I'm okay with Richard Walsh, man. He's kind of like a bald, bearded menace. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Tim Boetsch, not just because he looks like him a little, but he fights in the same style, but I think he does it much more efficiently. Tim has some trouble with his entries. I love Timmy too, so no offense intended here, but Richard Walsh is the kind of cat that will just barge right into range, and he does it behind some really tight, mean punches. He's not technically perfect, but he's kind of like a bruiser, He will just come into. You have to deal with him. He's gonna walk forward and throw big shots, and you either have to stay in the pocket and counter or cover and deflect them. And when you do, he's gonna clinch up and kind of just bully you around. So I don't know what the lines are on this, but the big question to me is, I have no idea how Richard Walsh's submission defense is, and Kunimoto is crafty in transitions, crafty with submissions. And to me, that might be, I imagine he might be the favorite because he's got a bigger name than Walsh. But if you think about one guy who has more physical strength, he's more aggressive, he's going to come forward and throw big shots and probably have the ability to take you down and get on top. saying, "Whoa, I can rely on my submission savvy or my transitions," is kind of risky. But so obviously, huge experience advantage to Kunimoto. But man, I don't know. I'm actually maybe leaning towards Walsh here. It would seem to be. What are the odds on this, Nate? I don't mean to spoil your big.
We'll get to the odds when the time is right, Dallas.
That's right. We wouldn't want to spoil that. Would just be way too anticlimactic. But
yes,
all right, so I'll go Walsh here. Just kind of, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kunimoto win. I imagine he's heavily favored, but I don't know.
He's medium heavily favored. I'll give you that much of a clue. He's medium heavily favored.
All right, so I'm medium warm on Walsh for the upset here.
Bold words. And Zane? Is Dallas talking crazy?
No, I had somebody yesterday tell me that this was a this was a really easy matchup for Strasser Kunimoto, and it's just Kunimoto's not the kind of fighter who's ever gonna have an easy matchup. He's not that kind of talent. He's not the kind of dude who's gonna walk out there and it's oh, Kunimoto's gonna blow this dude away. He's not a bad fighter, but he's basically a solid wrestler and strong positional grappler. His striking is fairly non-existent, and anyone who can bully him is going to be a big problem. So in that way, I do think that Walsh has a strong avenue towards victory, and I mean, certainly a fighter like Walsh does. The big problem for me is that most of the Australian prospects, and I believe Walsh included, have less than zero wrestling. I mean, this is a country that is way in the back of the line when wrestling was being handed out, And so, unless Walsh is really getting with a better camp and is really training a lot more on his takedown defense, Kunimoto is a above average wrestler and shouldn't have much problem putting him on his back and swallowing him up on the ground.
All right, and the odds makers agree. They've got Kunimoto, like I said, medium heavily favored, anywhere from minus 230 all the way up to minus 241. Richard Walsh, the underdog, plus 190 all the way up to plus 206. And best fight odds in Wikipedia have these things in different orders. So now we get to women's bantamweight, the sexy off, Miesha Tate versus Rin Nakai. First off, who's sexier and who's kind of freakish? Just a one-word answer.
Do you really need an answer for the way you position that question?
No, I don't. But I did just watch a video of Rin Nakai forcing two stag beetles to fight each other over a banana while she was wearing some sort of busty top, and it was very. I just was wondering what the demo is for that. Anyway, it wasn't me.
Japan is the demo for that.
I think you're right. All right, Dallas, you've expressed an interest. How's the fight going to break down?
I really have no idea.
That's not what we look. We look to you for answers. If people wanted no idea, they'd watch me and Eugene do the Care Don't Care preview.
Yes, but it would be foolish to assume that I know the unknown. Big dong.
Donald Rumsfeld right here with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, a lot of this it's all about, we don't know what level Rin Nakai's at. I mean, she's been, like a bulldozer, and she's got excellent judo. She's built like a tank. But I mean, it's hard for me to to say how she's going to stack up against Tate as far as just like overall status and talent. Obviously, her biggest step up. Really, in a way, I think part of the matchup favors Nakai because to me, Miesha is. I think she's most comfortable as a submission wrestler. I guess that's a good way to say it. She's done pretty well on her striking, but to me, at heart, Miesha Tate is a submission wrestler, and she's extremely talented. But that's also why Ronda Rousey was a bad matchup for her, because in order for her to implement that game, she's got to get into, phone booth range, toe-to-toe, clinch up, and go from there. And man, that's a tough thing against someone as wide and as strong as Nakai. And isn't there like a pretty substantial? I want to say, is Nakai like 5 foot, like barely breaks 5 foot?
Nakai is 5'1". And
5'1".
So 5'6", measured 5'7", basically.
Miesha, 5'7"?
5'6.5", it says here. So maybe 5'6", maybe 5'7". Either way, 5 or 6 inches taller than Nakai.
So I don't want to call this a freak show, but that makes, I don't know, to me that's fairly intriguing, because I actually think that Miesha will have some trouble. I think her best bet is maybe to clinch up, but I mean, she'll try to take her down, but I think how she reacts in the 2 moves after they clinch up, whether it's hopping onto her back or just latching on and trying to initiate a scramble. I guess what I'm saying is that for Misha to really do what she does best, she would have to take Nakai down, and that is going to be really, really tough. And Nakai can be weird. Like, there's fights where she'll walk out and just literally run someone over like a wrecking ball, and then other fights where she'll like circle around like Lyoto Machida for like 2 rounds and do nothing. So that's got to kind of play into Misha's strategy too. Like, what the hell is this girl going to do? Man, I don't know. I feel weird. Overall, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm actually looking forward to watching this fight. I would probably just have to bitch out and take Misha just because of all the obvious. She's more proven, higher level. But man, Nakai could really just be a brick shithouse and just keep her stuff submissions and take her down and overpower her. That would not surprise me at all.
All right, and Zane, your thoughts without using any loaded sexist terms like Dallas just did. Bitch out. Oh, come on. Just fucking with you. Anyway, go ahead, Zane.
I'm speaking to the more moral crowd who wouldn't make that correlation.
These are those moments where I'd rather just blank. I'd just rather just pretend that I didn't hear any of that interchange and just move right ahead.
Well, go. Then why are you calling attention?
That's flattering.
Not from you. I'm just talking about Nate's interjection, not
Oh,
Dallas.
yeah, thank you.
Fine.
That is flattering.
I'm trying to educate and civilize the kid, Zane.
You are the worst possible person to be put in that position.
That is hard. There are many more egregious offenses.
I've walked into many a grenade like that. I can see myself getting lynched for that improper use of words. So
okay. Anyway,
as Zane said, let's move forward.
Nakai, this is great matchmaking to me, even if Nakai gets squashed as the hometown girl, which she easily could. Tate does seem to... I think she probably has the kind of, I don't know, surrounding personality that would resonate well with Japanese fans. She's, the whole, cupcake nickname and all that, that sort of thing seems like it would go over well. So I think that, Japanese fans might be willing very much to root for her if she wins. But beyond that, it's also just the sort of thing where Nakai she either needs to be proven immediately valuable or she just needs to be getting fun fights. And this is a very easy, instant proving ground for her to say, can you immediately come out and be a valuable main card fighter for us? Or are you just going to be somebody that we match up and get a cult, the cult fans interested in undercards? Because she's been fighting since 2006. She's 16-0. She's even beat, some reasonable names like Sarah Del Lelio and Tara La Rosa, and she has the status to say she should be a top 10 bantamweight if she can win these kinds of fights. And Tate looks like she's fallen off, honestly. Her fight with Liz Carmouche was pretty terrible in a style matchup that heavily favored Tate. And I do wonder how much her kickboxing has improved a lot, but I do wonder how much she's willing to use it. Against Ronda Rousey, it just seemed like it was always punch, punch, shoot for the takedown. Punch, punch, shoot for the takedown. Even if she was, matching Rousey on the feet, she just could not stop herself from driving into the clinch and looking for a takedown. And Nakai is a tree stump. She's absolutely muscle-bound, impossible to take down, and a tough fighter. If Tate can take her down and hold her down, this is an easy money ground and pound win. Stay on the outside kickboxer, easy win. But if she plays into Nakai's game, she could also very easily drop a unanimous decision. So I'm very interested in this. I'd probably take Tate. She has more avenues to victory, but it'll be an interesting fight to see.
Has there ever been a more physically imposing fighter than Rin Nakai? I mean,
Brock Lesnar is considerably more.
I was kind of thinking along the female lines, but I like how you merge genres.
I think she's too squatty to be that imposing. I mean, to me, she's more like a female Manny Gamburian than she is like somebody really terrifying. Maybe a Melvin Manhoff.
She moves pretty well, though. That's the thing. Like
Manny's got some moves on him.
Yeah, I guess if you want to really stick with that, Manny.
I would compare her to Hector Lombard.
Yeah, that's fair without the punching power.
And the Japanese crowd's going to go nuts because she'll walk out with giant angel wings and a 6-foot broadsword and shit. So this will be a little Pride-esque.
I think for women's MMA, she actually has punching power. She just is a terrible combination kickboxer. She's only going to land one big punch and then she's going to shoot for a takedown. I mean, she doesn't, But I would say Hector Lombard is a pretty strong port for Rin Nakai in women's MMA.
That's a fairly good comparison. And the odds makers, they like Miesha Tate. They've got her favored from -270 all the way up to -300. Rin Nakai is the underdog, +210 all the way up to +246. And that brings us all the way up to welterweights Yoshihiro Sexyama Akiyama versus Amir Sadollah. The people have been crying out. He's been out in the desert for so long. The fans want to see him. Amir Sadollah is finally back, but
finally
back. Virginia's Ultimate Fighter champion returns against the most popular Japanese fighter in UFC history, I would have to say, Sexyama himself. Dallas, how do you see this fight? Are these guys both past their sell-by date?
Where is Amir been, first of all?
Injured.
With what?
I don't
Ailments,
know.
Complaints, a litany of maladies.
I remember I was looking for him on Twitter and looking into why he was out for so long. And he basically, recently I just heard, the last thing he said was that some of the people in his gym and all that finally convinced him to kind of get back into fight shape. So it was sort of like he had some injuries, some maybe muscular injuries or some sort of injuries that were preventing him from really training for a while, and he lost motivation and then finally kind of said, I'll really try and get into physical therapy and work through this.
So that doesn't bode well, I would say, as far as...
Did we lose Dallas?
Looks like...
There he is.
What?
You froze for a moment, Dallas. Keep talking. Talk about the fights. Akiyama versus Sadollah.
Akiyama's still a pretty decent fighter. I mean, even though his status, whatever, he didn't pan out like he thought. It's not like he's really easy to mount offense against. I mean, he doesn't have the greatest striking defense, but I mean, he's a tough dude. He's got really good judo and he's got a really big heart. And
some punching power, and he's finally moving down to welterweight.
Which is long overdue, I would say.
I guess his fight against Jake Shields was his welterweight debut, but that was all the way in February of 2012. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that has been a long-ass time ago, too. Mm-hmm. So, really, I'm kind of leaning Akiyama, and it's kind of, I don't mean to be a dick, but like with Amir, kind of like what I was saying about Caceres. You watch the guy, and when he was first coming up, his Muay Thai was very technical, exceptionally, especially for a guy who was just starting out. But man, I don't know. He definitely did not continue to improve at that rate. And I think it got to the point, kind of like with Caceres, where it looks pretty, you're doing all the right things, but you need to make an impact on your opponent with that striking. And I don't know why he's kind of been unable to do that. And I want to say that towards his last couple fights, he seemed a little susceptible in the clinch, where his tendency, respectably so, was to strike, but that he was able to be, let's say, manipulated and taken down. And I think Akiyama obviously will be able to do that and do it well. It sounds weird, but I was really impressed with what Amir could do off his back. And again, that's not great chances for you to say I'm going to win off my back, but he's either got to outpoint him on the feet. I'd like to see him load up some power, but I'm not expecting that. So even though I think Amir should and maybe will have a few exciting moments, that Akiyama's kind of constant pressure and ability to impose his control kind of makes him a safer bet as far as a decision win, I'm thinking.
And Zane, your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like this matchup. I think it's good to get two guys that are, have some fan following and have been out forever. Get them back in there and see which one of them has anything left. It's a fun for a fight that really doesn't have a lot of like have any implications behind it at all, it's still a fun fight that I'm interested in seeing, and it's well matched. Which is why I say like I think this is one of the best match cards of the year. And I think the big thing for me is I honestly, just from what I've heard from them in interviews and seen from footage and all that, it seems to me like Akiyama has been really working to improve over the last couple years while he's injured, and maybe that's not necessarily the case for Sadollah. It sounds more to me like he's just been kind of out of the fight game. Been like, I'm not going to fight again, and then people around him were like, oh, you should really get back out there, and now he's saying, okay, I'll give it another shot, whereas Akiyama's saying, I had this injury, but I want nothing more than to get out there and show off the new skills I've been developing. So, but in just from that, because I mean, otherwise you're talking about two guys coming off 2 years of injury layoff each. There's zero way to tell what you're going to get out of this fight. Absolutely none. So I'll take Akiyama just on that, because otherwise I can't think of any way that you handicap this fight and say, oh yeah, he's got the advantage coming off his 2-year layoff.
If you had a time machine, you could go forward to Sunday and tell us exactly what would happen, but we
well,
don't.
I'd say with Akiyama, sorry to interrupt you, but we know his judo skills haven't just like gone out the door. You know what I mean? He's been doing it long enough that I'm confident he's not going to decline.
But we don't know how his athleticism is. I mean,
I don't want to freak anybody out, but Chewy just moved behind Dallas. Like, Dallas, be careful. Okay, go ahead. It was pretty weird. It was like he loomed over you in a scary way. Anyway, no, Akiyama's not going to forget his judo skills. Seems highly unlikely. The odds makers like some Akiyama. They've got him favored from -164 all the way up to -180. Amir Sadollah is the dog at +140, +135 all the way up to +148. And that brings us to Takanori Gomi, the Fireball Kid, against Miles Jury. The odds already make me has a sad. Takanori Gomi, please, somebody tell me Takanori Gomi can do it one last time.
Well, I'll do that because I'm going to pick Takanori Gomi every time. He's like, there's the Diaz brothers.
Dallas, you making a wishful thinking pick doesn't reassure me. It just makes me have a double sad. A sad for Gomi and a sad for you.
It's one of those like constants where regardless of your fragile emotions, I'm going to do that anyways. So I'm kind of a big deal. A lot of people don't know this, but on the underground, I actually am the creator of the Gomi head, and that has been, to this day, my greatest accomplishment in MMA ever. No offense to Bloody Elbow and everything else. So I'm going to take him no matter what. It's just one of those things. I would commit seppuku otherwise. But it's a horrendous matchup. I mean, there probably could not be a worse matchup. Miles Jury is a pimp, man. He's a great fighter. I still don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. Just as for his wrestle boxing, but then he's long and he's tall. He's got a hell of a reach, and the boy can explode for takedowns too. So, and he's still really young. So I think Miles Jury will continue to carve his way up the contender ladder and really maybe push for a title shot within the next 2, maybe 3 years. So I'm going to take Gomi. I'm going to pray like hell that he'll bring out the fireball uppercut or whatever. But to me, the most frustrating thing, so if I was playing a video game, Takanori Gomi was my character, like, you got to change, you got to evolve, you got to do something. Ever since he got in, even before he came into the UFC, people were hoping he would mix something up. And he really fights the exact same way he did back in the Bushido, tournament back in the day. So I don't have high hopes, but that's what's fun about watching a Gomi match for me now. I will pray like hell that he can land it just like he did against Tyson Griffin. No logic whatsoever. Homer pick.
All right, Zane, can you bring us back to reality? But please, make the case for Gomi if you can. Well,
I mean, it's nice that he's on a 4-fight win streak, essentially.
Well, except for the Diego Sanchez decision went the wrong way.
Nobody in their right mind believes that Takanori Gomi lost to Diego Sanchez.
That has to be one of the worst decisions ever in the world of any sport, not just MMA. It was
inexplicable. I mean, Gomi just busted him up. All Diego did was stumble forward and eat punches, and somehow 2 out of 3 judges gave him that call. It was utterly baffling. Anyway,
actually, it's fucking crazy that he's on a 4-fight win streak, though.
Yeah. I mean, he's I think that, while he may not have evolved a new diverse skill set, I do think he's probably fighting as a better reactive boxer and combination puncher than he used to when he had all the athleticism and power. He's better at, waiting for guys to try and punch and then coming in around them with combinations. That's certainly, he did that even looking like a hungover shell of himself against Isaac Valley Flag. He did that. I definitely the big worry for him too though is that he's just, I mean, it seems like he's not in shape at all. Like he's not really training seriously.
I have this terrible feeling he's out there like drinking beers and smoking cigarettes with Sakuraba as we speak.
And that's part of the charm. I mean, that's kind of what makes him awesome, is that that he's, he could be out binge drinking right now, and then he's going to come in and just go to war with Jury. And I think it'll be a fun fight. Jury is not a big volumes. He's not big on volume with his aggression. He tends to go for one-off shots, and that it leads him to what used to be a very knockout-heavy offense early on in his career has declined as he's moved on because he doesn't tend to work in volume with his aggression. So I don't know that he's going to knock Gomi out. Gomi's not exactly chinny at all, and it should be a fun battle. I think Jury wins it. I think he stays outside. He uses good footwork, and he pot shots Gomi for 3 rounds. But I hope that we get some good scraps out of it, and maybe some scrambles and things like that.
All right, and the odds makers, they like them some Jury too. They've got him favored anywhere from minus 535 all the way up, minus 480 all the way up to minus 600. It just breaks your heart to see Takanori Gomi, once universally recognized as the best lightweight in the world. Now he's an underdog like this to Miles Jury. And Gomi is underdog at plus 375 all the way up to plus 472. Time, it's a harsh mistress. And that brings us to the main event. Mark Hunt versus Roy Nelson. Heavyweight action. Zane, you can go first.
It's weird to think of a heavyweight fight that might go to a decision, but they're, and especially for two guys known for having a huge amount of power in their hands, but they're also two guys that are legitimately almost impossible to knock out at heavyweight. I mean, Junior Dos Santos couldn't knock Roy Nelson out, and he basically...
But he could knock Mark Hunt out.
He could knock Mark Hunt out, but that's because he started integrating that wheel kick, and it was the wheel kick that knocked Mark Hunt out. That was,
and we won't see Roy Nelson bust out a wheel kick.
Yeah, that was a 250-pound man throwing his whole body at Mark Hunt's chin. This is probably going to be a really, really fun brawl, no matter what. I got to think, and honestly, Hunt, as often as he seems like, it's funny because he puts forward this image as like the tough man brawler that's just going to go out there and throw down with people. But he's a really crafty kickboxer. He's really, he knows how to plan around opponents, especially in their striking. And, Nelson doesn't. Nelson's going to go out there and bomb right hands. He's developed some little distraction lefts that he throws where he'll try to loop a left hook out or a couple of jabs to lure you into his right hand so he can bomb the right hand, but that's really all he's looking to do anymore. And I just don't see Hunt being sloppy enough to get caught with that. He might get hit with it once or twice, but I don't see it being something that he would repeatedly walk into. So I got to give Hunt the advantage. I think he takes probably a decision over 5 rounds that just deteriorates into something more and more fun. But I'd like to see him get the knockouts, somewhere in the middle of there.
And here's the enigma of this bout that Eugene and I wrestled with. It's like, it wouldn't. I mean, any idiot could come up with a game plan where Roy Nelson has a 60, 70, 80% chance of beating Mark Hunt. Get the takedown, use your jiu-jitsu, top control, submission, dominate from the top. Is this impossible? Is this just something Roy Nelson refuses to do? Dallas, settle this question.
I think he'll do it, actually.
That you think Roy will ruin it, stab the fans in the back?
Well, no. I mean, let's be honest. Like, Roy has phenomenal fucking jiu-jitsu for a guy that of his size and that looks like he does. He moves on the ground like with extreme grace. So to me, he's done himself a disservice sometimes by standing up as often as he does. Although hell, it works. But really, I think even against guys like JDS. Roy wasn't content just to stand and trade. He did want to move in and get into the clinch. I want to say he's actually kind of like what Zane said about Gomi. Before, I think it was really obvious. Roy was going to sling a home run right hand and follow in behind it like the old Team Quest thing and look to clinch up, and that was kind of mostly what you could expect. I think he's gotten better at that same strategy. A little more side-to-side movement. He's not as predictable. So I think he's still going to come forward and want to take Hunt down, but he's not going to be as predictable about it. And actually, I think that's a big advantage for Roy because Hunt might be thinking he's going to throw, but really he's going to be coming in for a takedown. So I think Hunt is going to be a little hesitant about planting his feet and throwing bombs. And to me, over a 5-round fight, the way I looked at it is eventually Roy is going to, he's durable as hell. He's almost impossible to knock out. With that much time, hell, in a heavyweight fight, Hunt could fall over and Roy could jump on him. I mean, that's just too much time, and I think even though they might not be traditional opportunities, we'll say that Roy will have the opportunity to jump on, and I think it'll be over with from there. The one thing I do want to mention that's weird to me is that Hunt, for being an excellent kickboxer, has really almost become a boxer in MMA. And I understand all that because it's really conducive to takedown defense, a la like the Chuck Liddell style. But the one weapon that I think he really should bring back out is his low kicks. I mean, his hips are like 5 miles wide. When he turns those over and cracks into a low kick, I mean, that is like disabling to any and all mammals. So that might present some risk.
Yep. And Chewy has now grabbed and eaten Dallas Winston. We predicted... there he is. We thought Chewy had killed and eaten you.
He did not yet. That's at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So either way, I'm going to go with Big Country. I think eventually that he'll get the opportunity to latch on, take back control, and Hunt cannot compete with
Can I make a quick point following that?
Sure.
The last time I believe Roy Nelson completed a takedown, 2011.
2011.
And who did he fight since then, though?
Roy Nelson. Well, he fought Matt Mitrione, I'm pretty sure, but that was a short fight. Who has he fought since 2011? Fabricio Verdum, Mirko Filipovic. I think that may have been the last guy he took down.
And it wouldn't make sense to take Verdum down, so.
Dave Herman. Matt Mitrione, Czech Congo, Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier, and Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira.
Well, here's the thing with that analysis, though. With Herman, Mitrione, and Congo, and Nogueira, no need to take any of them down. And with Cormier and Miocic, no chance of taking them down.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
Well,
Division One All-American and Olympian. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying
on that level.
Touting Roy Nelson to get takedowns is like he doesn't have a takedown game. He's not a great takedown.
It's true, but Mark Hunt doesn't have a sprawl game. I mean,
exactly.
I'm just saying
he's gotten better.
He's not even gonna try.
Yes, he's improved.
I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see the Roy Nelson jiu-jitsu threat.
Zane, we've been through this before. You've got the certainty of a young man in his early 20s. Time will wear down this confidence that you have in your prognostication.
Well, to me, one of the best grapplers in a black belt in jiu-jitsu fighting a one-dimensional striker, that should be an option to at least take a glance at, I would say.
Well, I mean, at some point, Roy's wife and manager is going to say, Roy, the takedown.
I would love fighters to fight smart. Last time Roy Nelson submitted someone, 2006.
Yeah, but he's been knocking the piss out of everyone. So does that
So
really?
why do you think he's gonna go for a takedown?
Because
Because he wasn't fighting a one-dimensional striker with almost zero takedown defense or grappling skills. Mark's gotten a lot better at scrambling. He knows how to
What
use
you
the
mean,
guard
like
now.
Matt Mitrione? I mean, he's
But
gonna.
Matt Mitrione was an easy knockout for him. I mean,
You're saying like the results don't justify. Like you can't say, oh, he knocked him out. Thus, like if he's going out there looking for knockouts, he's not going out there looking.
But I mean, any sentient being is going to have a slightly different game plan against Matt Mitrione and Mark Hunt. I mean, it's two completely different.
You're talking pro fighters. You're not talking sentient
I think Roy Nelson, even though he trains in his living room, knows a thing or two. Anyway,
I don't see it.
Time will tell. Zane Simon once again putting himself out there. Kid, we're learning you. We're going to learn you up. Roy Nelson just might make a fool of you come Saturday morning early. And so the odds makers, though, they like Mark Hunt. They've got him favored at minus 135 all the way up to minus 145. And Roy Nelson is the dog at plus 105 all the way up to plus 125. So,
don't we need to liven up the show with some kind of friendly wager? Like if Big Country wins by submission, Zane has to do something semi-humiliating but acceptable for viewership.
Like?
Light himself on fire and run around naked? I don't know. I came up with the idea. Where do you guys have been?
Yeah, you came up with the idea. You got to complete the idea.
Good Cut out Chewbacca's heart.
Hey!
On the top of the Temple of the Sun.
He
hold it still beating for the crowd.
You been watching Temple of Doom? Isn't that funny? That's my first reference.
Come on, man! I'm watching the Mel Gibson movie that was all in Mayan. Whatever.
Apocalypto.
Has anybody seen that?
Yeah.
Is it?
I try to boycott Mel Gibson. So.
Well,
that's a great film. He directed it. He's not in it.
I don't want to. I still give him money if I go buy it or watch it.
Couldn't you stream it illegally? Not that we'd ever do that, but I'm just saying.
You've seen that, right, Nate? It's a good
I haven't seen it. I've been inadvertently boycotting Mel Gibson just because I haven't bothered to see any of his movies, but I'm sort of curious about that one. It's really good?
It's good, yeah. I would recommend it, actually. It's good.
Huh. All right, well, we'll find out. And perhaps Zane would have to watch a Mel Gibson movie.
There you go.
Hey, but you guys have to have a bet going, too, or Dallas does. If Nelson does not complete one takedown in this fight,
let's get all semantical.
Semantical.
Yeah, I'm up to it. All right, so I'm not feeling very clever.
What's he have to do?
Oh, see, now I'm.
People can tweet their suggestions to us.
There you go. Let's put the onus on the viewers.
At Uncle Justice, at DJ Simon, at Kid Nate. Think of an appropriate bet to match the indignity of Zane having to watch Apocalypto and do a full report.
Not Apocalypto. If he's going to do Mel Gibson, he should do one of those like Ransom or something with Rene Russo.
The Last Torture of Christ.
Does he? Does he have like some chick flick he did? Maybe some like.
Ooh, what women
Beaver?
want.
What was the one with the beaver puppet?
Ooh.
Is that it? No, come on now, Nate. I'm not doing that thing again. There's a Never mind. Let's just wrap.
I think there was, but I think Apocalypto is plenty of torture. And
I just got done saying it's a good movie.
Well, I know, but Zane's political beliefs will be deeply offended by giving Mel Gibson money.
Everyone is really into this now. Zane's political views might be impacted by.
Yes, the Beaver is the one you're thinking of, which somehow, but that was directed by Jodie Foster, so I wouldn't count that as a Mel Gibson movie. Jodie Foster's a completely.
If he's in it counts.
But it's not a Mel Gibson movie. He's in it. It's a Jodie Foster movie. Come on, people.
Whatever.
Yeah, tour theory. All right. Wrapping up the show. I just gave you the Twitters. Remember to give us a like. That's a thumbs up on YouTube down below. And read us on bloodyelbow.com.
Know where below is.
It's that way.
For all the viewers that were like, but what does he mean by below? Yeah.
It's, we've got, by this time, people are deep in their bath salts by this time of the episode and are incredibly disoriented. So that's our show. I think I've done all the plugs. Adios, MMA aficionados. We'll be back. We won't be doing a 6th round because, God, are we going to be in brutal condition immediately after this. I will have a bathrobe review. Eugene will have Knuckle Up on Monday, and then we'll be back. There's another UFC the following weekend, and we will be back with all the care, don't cares, and vivisections as you've come to expect for all that. So adios, MMA aficionados. For Dallas Winston and Zane Simon, this is Kid Nate signing off. Thanks, guys.
Don't we do this?